that's good to know. And then, wait a minute, here's another piece of paper. Let's find out what's on this piece of paper. This has to do with what to do with banks that drive your country almost over the cliff. I think that was an issue a couple of years ago or something like that. I think it's no longer a problem. Anyway, you remember. And what Obama's piece of paper there said was, the Swedes did the right thing. What the Swedes did when their banks acted out in the late 80s, early 90s was, the Swedish government seized the major banks, fired the senior management, made sure the stockholders of those banks got not a dime, told the banks that they didn't seize, we are in no way bailing you out. Not a penny of Swedish money is going to go to bailing out any of you because we don't want you to make mischief ever again. And if we bail you out, you will do it again. What Obama said in this piece of paper was, the Swedes handled it correctly. He went on to say, he actually said this in a news conference, we're not going to do that. He said, well, they have a different political culture. I may have mentioned that Monday night. What he really meant was, in Sweden, the government is not behind a castle wall, surrounded by the real power of the country. Because in Sweden, they actually have a democracy. I think Obama is trying to get the word to us. Also in his celebration of civil disobedience on his Martin Luther King speech, which was all about civil disobedience, civil disobedience, civil disobedience. I mean, for me, it was virtually like, come on, people! And remember, during his campaign, he kept saying, don't make the mistake of thinking that you're sending me to Washington to take care of you. We will go to Washington to make the change, or the change won't happen. So I think, given the fact that he is not out to be a martyr, he's not out to be, remember, as a young man, he decided not to be a Martin Luther King figure, not to be a Jesse Jackson figure. He decided to be a pragmatic politician figure. That was his career choice. We all make our career choices. His choice was to be a politician. So he's made that choice. He's not looking to be assassinated. He's not looking, to be discredited in the way that Jesse Jackson was. He's looking to be a successful, pragmatic, liberal, moderate, something like that. And he's being successful at that. But what I appreciate about him is his pieces of paper all crumpled up and thrown over the castle wall. Because I believe that he wants us to know that he's an ally for demands that we might make. That is to say, he's not a Bush. Right? He's not a Cheney. You know what I mean?
He's open.
He's open. We have to do the work because that happens to be the political structure that we have allowed to be in place. It's not that Obama created this political structure that is not a democracy. My parents had to do with that for not struggling hard enough. Right? I mean, the fact is that the Swedes threw out the rich owning class and created a democracy. And that's why they could do what they did to the banks. The Norwegians did the same thing. They threw out the rich who were used to running their country. And instead, the Labor Party has been running the country, and that's why they have a democracy. The U.S., that's all of us, failed to take that step. It looked promising in the 30s, but in the 30s, the Swedes did it. In the 30s, the Norwegians did it. Of course, the troops were called out. Troops were, killing workers over there, just as troops were killing workers here in this country. But we did not succeed in creating a democracy here. It doesn't mean we can't. I think we can. I think we can remember what we already know. What we learned in the Civil Rights Movement, that's what I talked about mostly Monday night, but any number of movements can remind us what we already know. That people power beats money power when the people power is actually used fully. People power overthrows military dictatorships, and my students at Swarthmore are developing the case studies that show how that's done. People power is the most powerful form of power that there is, and that's what my pamphlet is about. And Quakers have an inside track on that because of our legacy. We can participate in bringing democracy to this country, but we'll pretty consistently make the wrong political judgments if we tell ourselves this is already a democracy, because it's not. And one of the fights I have with some of the climate change people is, I had just 2 days ago in the dining room with one of the climate change leaders for the Society of Friends, who was saying, and therefore we should feel guilty because we're colluding with the da-da-da-da. I said, I am ready to feel guilty if I'm a member of a democracy and if I've been consulted on policy toward coal, for example. Who asked me? Were you asked about whether BP should drill in the Gulf of Mexico? Were you?
Actually, it's already yes.
No. Not really, not through an election, not through what a democracy looks like. And we have to go to countries that have democracies to find this out. We shouldn't try to, we have to go someplace where they have it to find out. What democracies do is they get experts to develop options that the people then decide among. We could create the energy grid that we need in this country, the electricity grid, through coal or through oil or through sustainable energy sources, or what do you want? And then we get to decide among options. How many of you have ever seen that in an election? We are not asked to do that. I am not feeling any kind of guilt for the climate change outrage that is going on today. I'm very important to me as a Quaker that I live in integrity with my vision, which is to go off, off this fossil fuel mania that we're on. But I'm not going to pretend that this was a democracy and that I was asked that this country should be headed for a cliff. They did not ask me. They deliberately won't ask us because we would come up with a different answer that they wouldn't like. A majority in West Virginia, where mountaintop removal is mercilessly practiced, a majority of West Virginians hate mountaintop removal, according to the polls. And that's where the coal companies say, oh, well, we're only here for the jobs, of course. We're just helping the poor West Virginians who else would starve. And West Virginians, a majority of them, don't want mountaintop removal. Polls are dangerous. Polls will tell us the truth sometimes about how many majorities are against the policies of this government. Oh, I'm such a ranter today. It must be Friday. Enough. Carol.
An observation about your New Zealand analogy. What struck me, George, is that the apartheid rugby game was a finite event. And the unemployment economy is a big, big, infinite, vast thing. And that is feeling to me like the climate change thing.
It's way
so
big.
One piece of what I'm grappling with is how do we take on a big, 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 big umbrella, infinite, multifaceted thing? Now what occurred to me is single event. Rosa Parks undergone a lot of training. Decides one day she's had enough. A single tiny individual event that then people are ready for. Where is the single tiny individual event for climate change? It's puzzled me why there isn't some kind of huge demonstration down in Louisiana, down around this oil spill.
Around the Gulf Coast.
I mean, I get the sense that God is saying, do I have your attention yet? What do I need to do to get you people moving? And I don't know what to do. I mean, if I had the money, I don't. I'd go down and wash a bird. That's what I would do. I know that you have to work where you are. You have to work small. You have to be too tired to sit up when the bus driver tells you to. You have to be wanting to wash a bird. I don't know what the thing is.
Washington, Rosa.
Yeah, the washing of the bird sounds a little like cleaning up somebody else's mess.
Yes, I
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
And maybe
yeah.
that's why God hasn't given me the money to go do it.
Okay,
And
so.
also, I've heard that it really doesn't help the birds because they die anyway
Oh.
afterwards. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm asking,
Yeah.
but
No,
the big thing,
I hear a great
how do
question there.
we-
It's a strategy question from my
It's
point
a
of view.
strategy
Because
question.
if you've got this huge thing, then how do you get hold of it?
Yeah.
What are the handles for
Where's
dealing
the
with such a
Quaker handle?
huge
I
thing?
mean, I like to go into the bank with the leafleting and the mountaintop. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. Okay. I have friends who live in Pittsburgh, near the University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon and all that. My friend is a research physicist, knows lots about reading data, scientific analysis, etc. His wife is a cancer survivor. Miraculous cancer survivor. We had a true healing miracle with the power of prayer from metastasized esophageal cancer, if any of you really want to know a miracle. Okay. They go to Pittsburgh, they move in, lovely apartment, first year is fine, second year, terrible air pollution starts coming in the window. My friend's life is in danger again from this air pollution coming into the challenge fire. Don begins writing massive letters. They organize a grassroots campaign because they want to shut down this coal-burning boiler plant that is heating the universities. They get all the university scientists mobilized. I mean, they're really doing everything right. But nothing changes until Bill Gates says, I'm going to give you a computer lab, pretty much free of charge, but you've got to stop burning coal. And then the boiler plant gets closed down. So that's your Cecil Thomas, David Rockefeller story. Now, how do we get to the people who are controlling things? How do we get, who are the people who can tell the president, you need to do this? I don't know, somebody must.
What motivates some of those people, I can't speak about Bill Gates in specific, but in those kinds of situations, what tends to happen is that it happens after that organizing that you referred to happens.
Yes.
Because they, in order to stay in charge, need to be sensitive when the natives get restless. See, that's part of the genius of staying in charge, right? Management requires knowing what's going on at the grassroots and then being responsive just enough to be able to stay in charge and get them to quell. And that's the dynamic that happens over and over again. It's the upsurge that gives the chance for change. Once in a while it's in the form of a Bill Gates angel, and sometimes it happens in other ways. But the resolution needs to follow the actual creation of the crisis. Now, as I want to respond to